Hi, I'm Steve Jensen. I'm very honored to have been included in this exhibition, and I'm here to talk a little bit about my work. My family is from Norway. My father was a fisherman. My grandfather was a fisherman. My other grandfather was a boat builder. Upon the death of both of my parents, I made a boat for their ashes, took it out to sea, and sunk it, something like a contemporary Viking funeral. I also made one for my best friend and my former partner of 24 years. So for me, the boat is meant to be the symbolic voyage or journey to the other side. Two of my paintings, pre-COVID, went to outer space. Richard Garrett from Microsoft was at a party at my studio. I told him the story just like I told you. He looked at me and goes, "I'm taking those to space." I didn't know who he was, so I was like, yeah, good idea. Have another drink and get back to me. But anyway, he did. He took 10 artists, 12 pieces of art. I was the only North American artist because he wanted it to be a global experience. I was the first artist, so they were exactly this size. They were 16 by 20 inches. They were watercolor on paper, so he rolled them up, put them into a specially made tube, titanium, took them up into space, let them float around a while, brought them back down and sold them, or Sotheby's in New York did, and the money went to aerospace programs for kids. I tell all my friends, we always knew he was spacey. Now we just have proof. But the deaths were extremely tragic. My best friend died of AIDS. 2 years later, the same month, May, my father put a gun in his mouth and he shot himself. 2 years and 2 days after that, my mom, well, she just fell apart. Just fell apart. She went crazy and then she passed. During that period, what I call the nightmare that came to our family, my former partner of 24 years, his escape from what I call that nightmare was alcohol. So it was alcoholism that got to him. So what I'm attempting to do is take something that was extremely tragic in my life and turn it into something beautiful. And that's what I always tell people I hope the takeaway of my work is. Something tragic happens, turn it into something beautiful. Right now, we're living in a period where 850,000 Americans have died. It's tragic. It's horrible. The boat here, there's skulls in it, which is obviously acknowledgement of the deaths. SOS is a distress signal, usually used in nautical. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not an acronym for anything. It's just a Morse code, SOS. My grandfather would say, it's save our ship if the ship is going down, and save our soul if you're wet. There's a drawing of me in there as a navigator trying to attempt to navigate the unknown, which is right now what we're living with, unknowns, death. There's my hand. It's just an outline of my hand with an eye in it, which is meant to be an intuitive symbol. It's Egyptian. It's seeing, it's feeling, it's how you feel things. There is an iceberg here, coins from Norway, and the drips could be interpreted as either, melting ice or just decay. Decay. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I've been working on this series since, the boat series since 1998.
Hello, I'm Sarah Banks, and this is my piece, Appalachian Dreams. We were asked to respond to the question, what does resilience look like in a time of pandemia? And in a sense, I've answered the question, but in a sense, I'm posing the question. I'm looking at the pandemic that we're all living in as just one of a number of pandemics, a kind of final or maybe semi-final crisis that we are experiencing in the West with deindustrialization and other dramatic changes. So in this piece, which is part of a much larger body of work, some 40 pieces, I'm asking the question of what does resilience look like if you are, for instance, an unemployed miner in Appalachia? What does your dream look like? And in one sense, the resilience is the establishment of a wind farm, reclaiming the land, reclaiming the forests, one day reclaiming the polluted streams. But what reclamation can there be for the unemployed miner? What kind of retraining? What sort of future is he looking for? What kind of resilience are we speaking of, and what's called for? This particular piece came out of a large body of work called A Distant Mirror, in which initially I used the stories of the gods, the Greek gods, and mythological stories, some well-known, others lesser known, to shine that distant mirror on our own times. And so within that story frame of 40-odd pieces, I have characters like the miner. I have people who are living on the streets, who are also part of the pandemic of despair and addiction, like our coal miner in Appalachia. And so I think that the answer to the question about resilience lies somewhere in this space between the mountain and the wind farms and our man down here who's looking off into the distance to a very uncertain future. What happens here, or what we as a society do in this blank space, will be the answer to what does resilience in a time of pandemia look like. And finally, I want to say about this piece that I think also he may appear to be a man without hope, but I think as he's looking out into the world, out towards us, that response depends as much on the miner and his reclaimed coal mining area as it does upon us. So I think that's what I'd like to say about the piece for the moment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kree Arvanitas, and these are two pieces called Green Man, Green Woman, and I'm very thankful that I got juried into this show. So thank you, CoCA, for accepting my work. Green Man and Green Woman are, especially Green Man, are fairly common symbols that a lot of people have seen. Brass door knockers and sculptures on churches and such. It's a really ancient symbol, and it's not really Celtic. It actually goes much further back past ancient Greece all the way into Babylon. The symbol of the green man with the disgorging the nature, and it's definitely a whimsical and humorous and sort of an eye on the natural world, and these people represent a certain amount of lightheartedness and whimsy and kind of nature, taking care of nature and being symbols of that. A lot of my work is what I call eco-dystopian. A lot of my work focuses on endangered species, endangered animals, ecological destruction. And strangely enough, during COVID, I was thinking a lot about resilience. And I was thinking about part of the weapons of resilience are a sense of humor and a sense of we can go forward, we can do something with this. And also, I think being content to not have all the answers, but to be looking openly for what can possibly come out of this tragedy that we've all been living through. So Green Man, Green Woman seem to be good symbols of that for me. A lot of people ask me about my technique. It is kind of three-dimensional, and there's lots and lots of layers of artist medium over it, so you can touch it if you want to. And it's a technique that I developed out of years of being a henna artist. I take the panels and I lay out all the major lines with henna paste, and then I paint over them and emphasize the lines. I've tried using sculpture gel instead of henna paste, but there's something about using a natural product that a lot of cultures relate to henna as a mystical and sacred plant. So I feel better about using henna than using the sculpture gel. And I think that's about all I have to say about